everybody? Welcome back from the off season. It is season 2, episode number 1 coming at you. He's Ty White. I'm Lachlan McTagg, and we are so back and so excited to bring you season 2 of the Fantasy Cast, brought to you by our good friends at Shocker Sports. Ty, what's up with you, man? I mean, I know I'm in a different place right now, but you look like you're in familiar territory over there.
I'm cozy. I'm at home right now, and we're back. And it feels so good to be back because we were talking about this before. It got into a routine last year. I mean, we did close to 30 episodes last year. Close to 30 episodes. That's pretty impressive. That's almost half a year of the Fantasy Cast, or half of your year with the Fantasy Cast included in it. So that's pretty special. And it's great. It's great to be back with you, Loch. Yeah, I'm at home right now, going off to university tomorrow to a place downtown. And how are you doing? My summer's been great. I'm just so happy to be back.
Yeah, I mean, my summer was pretty good. It's kind of come to an end now because I'm in my second week of classes right now down here in Phoenix, Arizona State University. I'm at the Crunk of Journalism and Mass Communication and loving it so far. Met a lot of great people. Phoenix is great. It's a really cool place. It's a lot different than Toronto for sure.
Absolutely. I
haven't put on long pants, a hoodie, or even like a quarter zip at all. I've just been wearing strictly shorts and t-shirts every day. Like yesterday, for example, it was 110 Fahrenheit yesterday.
That's incredible.
Like it's like the face of the sun out there. Sometimes walking to your classes, you got your backpack going, you get
You're
all
in the
sweaty.
desert. You are in the desert.
Yeah, it's the Valley of Sun.
That's great. Then you know what Arizona is also known for? Great football weather. And speaking of football, this is season 2 of the Fantasy Cast. We're so happy to be back, and we got a fantastic episode planned today. As you might have seen from our intro video, this year is going to be a little bit different than last year, in the sense that a little bit more time and effort is going to be going into these videos. We did put a lot last year, but we're trying to clean up the little things and make the show even more enjoyable for everyone at home. And that also comes with good content. We got lots of good content to start off this year's episode. It's drafting season. We're getting into fleece season. We know fleece season happened last year, and it's a yearly thing. It's coming back again.
Yeah, we are well within the parameters of fleece season right now.
Yeah. It's time. When drafting starts up again, fleece season's here. So, Loch, why don't you run us through today's episode? What are we talking about?
Yeah, so first of all, we're going to bring you 2 rookies worth drafting, because, can't forget about the rookies. Sometimes they ball out. Most of the time they ball out, but you got to know which one to pick, obviously, and then situationally. We're going to give you 2 sleepers as well. We're both going to give you 2 sleeper picks who, you may not think of and might slip a little bit. Definitely worth it. To follow that up with 1 player to avoid in the draft. And you'll see that we both have some interesting choices here. And then we'll make sure to give you a lock of the draft or a player that we think you should really pick up that isn't necessarily a marquee player or A1 type player in the NFL. And then we'll follow that with our fantasy question of the week to cap off today's show.
Oh, that was fun. Last year doing those every week. And we had some good questions, and a few of the times we post them to our reels. We're going to be trying to keep updated, as well as we've done our Instagram last year. We're going to even try to move over a bit of TikTok this year. As always, you can find us, or you're on YouTube right now, but YouTube, as well as Spotify. So let's get this going, Lachlan. What do you say?
Yeah. I say we get right into this. Let's do it, man.
And the positive thing, because we're starting off with 2 rookie players, so it's going to be a total of 4. We're going to briefly go through a couple rookies that we feel are worth drafting, perhaps where you can get them, and why they're worth drafting. And don't worry, there's no disclaimer. There's no Raiders players, Raiders rookies on these, because as you know, the Raiders have just released their offensive tackle, who was their first-round draft pick last year, Alex Leatherwood. They also had debacle of first-round picks in the past. That was a shot at Raiders fans. I'm a Chargers fan. I can do that. That's fine.
Yeah.
We're moving on. Lachlan, why don't you give us your first one? Who we got here?
Yeah. So he still technically is a rookie, even though he was a 2021 first round pick. Mm-hmm. I'm going with Travis Etienne.
Very good pick.
Travis Etienne was interesting. He tore his Achilles in training camp last season before the season was getting going. Everyone was interested to see because, the Jags traded for that first round pick later in the first round to get ATN because they also got his good buddy Trevor.
Oh, of
They
course.
had a special connection at Clemson. They were a pretty dynamic duo at Clemson for a couple years. And I'm
Absolutely.
just really interested to see how he performs on the big stage. You know, he's been waiting for his debut moment since the draft for over a year now, well over a year now. And I would love to see him just be hungry on the field and go out and chase that opportunity with Jacksonville, which is pretty much a wide open team that doesn't really have a whole lot to lose at this stage.
Not a whole lot to lose. You're getting better, and especially in PPR leagues, Loch. I mean, he's a pass catching back, which means a whole lot. That's why Austin Eckler is a lot of value. That's why McCaffrey is a lot of value each year. All these pass catching backs, and he can be one that solidifies himself as the number one back on that team for the next 5 to maybe even 6, 7 years. Rest in peace, James Robinson. As we know, you really liked him the other year, Lachlan. But yeah, it's too bad. Hopefully he moves to a better situation. But that's a fantastic pick. So I'm going to give you mine, and then we're going to go on to our other one. So my first one here is Breece Hall. And this one is more on the obvious side of things, but I'm going to give you the reasoning behind why. So Breece Hall, those of you who don't know, is on the New York Jets running back. He was a second-round pick out of Iowa State for the Jets. He's actually first all-time in rushing touchdowns and second in yards all-time for Iowa State Cyclones in the Big 12. So that's pretty impressive. That gives you some of his background statistics. So he's the number one to Michael Carter. A lot of ESPN people and scouts in the area have declared him as the number one back for the team. And it's most likely that later on in the year, he's going to get the majority of the touches, and actually towards the early bit of the year as well. The Jets also had a massive improvement on their O-line. They're slightly getting better each year, which is good to see from a team that sucked for a little while. Also, their coach, Mike LaFleur, he loves to rush the ball. Last year, the Jets used plenty of rushing schemes in zones. They use zone rushing schemes and a lot of sweeps and stuff like that. And that's perfect for a player who's so capable with the ball like Breece Hall. They brought him in to be their man, and that's why he's going to be a fantastic pick, probably going between the late second round, even early third round, probably not going to get to the fourth, around the third round to early second. And this guy's going to get 15 to 20 touches a game, and that's not including passes.
Yeah, again, love that. And another team that just really is just going out there and trying to develop as many players as possible. So a good situation all around. My second rookie here on my list, little bit of Falcons bias.
No.
I got to go with my man, Drake London. And I know I said that I would have loved to see the Falcons take Kyle Hamilton with that pick instead of a wide receiver. I know I said that. I did
say that.
I did say that, but that's only because I thought he would have complimented AJ Terrell brilliantly. But nonetheless, that was not the pick, and it's okay because Drake London is a great receiver in a really, really nice spot. Mm-hmm. And I'll be the first to say it, and you'll probably hear me say it a bunch more. The Falcons are going to be a very mediocre team. I'm not going to sit here and say they're going to make the playoffs.
They might.
In that they could surprise, but they're not going to be a lottery team, but they're not going to be a playoff team.
Fair enough.
To be perfectly honest, but that doesn't matter when you have a guy like Drake London because Drake London is stepping in immediately into a number 1, number 2 role right off the hop. He hasn't played a snap in the regular season, and he's already cemented himself as that player in that role. And I think that'll do wonders for him because there's only so many times you can use Kyle Pitts repeatedly or Cordell Patterson repeatedly.
Absolutely.
Right. And to have a guy like Drake London, who I think has a lot of upside going into his rookie year, and that the Falcons' last rookie wide receiver to have a really, really nice season coming off being selected in the first round was Calvin Ridley. Mm-hmm. So I think the Falcons know what they're doing when it comes to receivers.
Yeah, he's probably, if not one of the best rookie receiver coming out of the draft. There's some good ones this year, but definitely one of them. I'm going to give you, obviously Falcons bias, say whatever you want to say. I agree with that pick 100%. And I'm going to go for a receiver that's not as well known, not getting talked about too much, except for just a bit more recently. So my last pick here for the rookies is Treylon Burks, who's a wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans. He was a first-round pick out of Arkansas. He's a strong, fast, physical guy on the ball. He was compared a lot to A.J. Brown coming out of college, and that's ironic because A.J. Brown just left the Titans to go play in Philadelphia.
For that pick, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I think, So that's ironic that they bring in someone who's exactly like the person he's replacing. But that's not a bad thing. The Titans, apparently, according to ESPN's Dan Garziano, I think that's his name. I don't want to butcher that. There was just an article today, actually, that was posted saying the Titans have pretty big plans for him. He was someone who was very underrated, especially regarding fantasy. But he's now third on the depth chart, on the Titans depth chart. Not to mention the fact that they don't really have a tight end whatsoever. And their number one receiver is Robert Woods, who just came off a huge injury. So no one knows how he's going to do. But this guy's a good player. And there was a reason that he was a first-round pick out of Arkansas. He's definitely the receiver of the future for the team. And that starts with this season. I think he's going to have a big season. He's going in drafts people can get him between the 11th and 14th round. If you get him in anywhere between that, I think it's going to be a great investment. He's someone who might sit on your bench for the first couple of weeks, but he can come in and potentially be a fantasy saver, and who knows, maybe even a league winner towards the end. The biggest stat, though, here that I like is no team has more vacated targets than the Tennessee Titans. They have 351 open targets to fill from last year. That's going to be going to Robert Woods, and hopefully a lot of them will be going to Treylon Burks. Definitely very promising player right there. So those are our four rookie picks. Let us know what you think about them. But we hope that, we give you good recommendations. And for your information, I did pick Treylon Burks. Lachlan, you did pick Drake London. He is on your team.
Yeah. A bit of team draft bias, a bit of, supporting your own team bias, but nonetheless, I mean, great stat, by the way, too.
Thank you.
Vacant targets. That's a stat that not a lot of people either know about or would look into when drafting a receiver.
Yeah, because obviously you want to look at or even targets that are being added to your team, for example. That's what takes values away from someone like Jalen Waddle when you bring in Tyreek Hill. I still think Jalen Waddle is going to have a big year, but it's important to look at what teams have receivers that have recently come in and they had big receivers leave. Tennessee is obviously one of those teams.
Yeah. Alrighty. That wraps up the rookie segment here. Some interesting picks all around, I think. But now we're going to go to sleepers. Guys that you maybe would get mid to late rounds, but will provide you with some good value. And I'll start off here with my first pick, and I'm going with Rashad Penny on the Seahawks.
Ooh, very nice.
And I'm going with him because, one, I think everyone's doubting the Seahawks a little bit. Yep. They're definitely going to take a bit of a step back. But I still think that with Pete Carroll's system, they're not going to be a team like everyone on social media is pinning them out to be. Yeah. I don't think they're going to be that bad of a team. Yeah, Drew Lock's your quarterback, but you never know what Drew Lock.
Or Geno Smith. Never count on Geno.
That's true.
Sorry, go ahead.
You know what I mean, though, and I think Rashad Penny is going to be a workhorse in Pete Carroll's offense. Mm-hmm. And yes, they did draft a running back. Second round?
Yeah, I think
third round last year.
Kenneth Walker. I actually just pulled up his name. Kenneth Walker the third.
Yeah. So, but I think Rashad Penny, the way he ended last season as well, he ended last season on a good note. Carroll's just going to trust him because there's been a few new faces in that Seattle offense. And obviously DK Metcalf is a staple in there for sure. But I think Rashad Penny's going to be, old reliable. And I think he's going to be a 3-down back type player for the Seahawks.
Very, very underrated player. That's a great pick. Yeah, it's him or Kenneth Walker. I feel like could have pretty big years. But definitely, like you mentioned, the key thing there is he shined last year or towards the end of last year, which is a very good point. I'm going to hop into mine. Once again, this is someone that I drafted. And I told myself I was not leaving the draft this year without this guy. He's one of my favorite players in the league this year. There's actually a clip of him. I think it was on a bunch of different things, and ESPN was one of them, where he could name every single receiver drafted before him, what university they went to and all that. So that's kind of scary hours. That's showing you this guy's taking names and he's coming to win and be a dog. It's Amon-Ra St. Brown from the Detroit Lions. Perhaps the new face of the Detroit Lions after this season.
Holy.
And a big wide receiver. Obviously, Locke, we talked about this last year. He finished, well, kind of like Rashad Penny. He finished the season very strong. His
He had
last
like a historic rookie finish.
no, exactly.
And
It was unprecedented. I mean, nothing that dominant had ever been seen before. And I got it for you right here. Last 6 weeks, 24 points. So 24.8, 15.3, 23.5, 26, 35.4, and 26.1. That is only one game he had below 23 points.
that's absurd.
Those are Stephon Diggs numbers.
Yeah, like that doesn't happen very often. And I think Dan Campbell also like trusts him way more. I love Dan Campbell too, by the way. I love that guy so much. Oh my God.
He's just such a football, like stereotypical football coach, you know?
When I think of a football coach, I think of him.
Absolutely.
So anyway.
And I love that Amon-Ra is under him, because the Lions have a great offense. It's kind of a hybrid offense of passing and running. Obviously, DeAndre Swift's great. They also have Frank Ragnow. Their center is one of the best centers in the game. They have a decent O-line, TJ Hawkinson. They have a very unique team, and they've improved from last year. Amon-Ra is going to be the wide receiver number 1, and he was a star breaking out last year. That's looking to have a true full breakout season this year, because he wasn't really utilized as much until the end of the season. He actually finished last year with 90 receptions, just short of 1,000 yards with 912 and 5 TDs. So definitely looking for him to have a big year. It's going to be a boom player, I think.
Yeah, it's a great pick.
And he's going, by the way, you can get him around between the 4th, and some people even let him slip to the 5th. Probably around the 4th round is what you'd be getting. I want to know.
Yeah. And if you're picking him in the 4th round, like, yeah, that's a guy who's immediately in number 1 contention. So that's a no-brainer, really, value-wise. My second sleeper, he was an honorable mention on my rookies list, but I thought he'd be better on my sleepers list. It's Dameon Pierce, the Texans pick from last season out of Florida.
Yeah.
And the Texans are going to be in contention for the first overall pick. Let's be real. Their team really isn't great.
No.
But I'm picking him because I see way too many parallels between Dameon Pierce and James Robinson. I see way too many parallels because although Robinson went undrafted, which made his season even more, Dameon Pierce was definitely not a marquee running back going into the draft.
No, absolutely.
Right? So,
well, he was a name that certainly no one was talking about. I believe I actually have here as a 4th round pick.
Yeah. 4th.
And he was just today, or just the other day, he was named the starter above Marlon Mack and Rex Burkhead, who have both been playing in the league.
I believe they cut Marlon Mack.
Okay, so
which is part of it. Yeah, so I believe the Texans. What happened there was the Texans cut Marlon Mack, and Rex Burkhead is a very situational running back.
Yeah, not a bad player, but not a number 1.
You use him in certain situations, he gets the job done. But I feel like Dameon Pierce can really be a 3-down workhorse for them, similar to what James Robinson was, because he walks into an open door essentially. And I feel like if he gets the touches, then eventually he's going to break through. And if James Robinson did it with that Jags team that got the first overall pick that year, then I don't doubt that Dameon Pierce can have a similar type RB1 season that James Robinson did in 2020.
Loch, that's a fantastic comparison. You even look like the teams, like you said, open door scenario is very similar in terms of what the teams are going through. And you look like James Robinson, pretty sure the year before he finished in the NFL top 100 list because of how good of a season he had. So Dameon Pierce could totally be someone that fills in that role. Probably around the 4th round, late, like 3rd to 4th round is a Dameon Pierce. Certainly a fantastic pick. We're going to wrap up the sleeper players here. My pick, it's going to be Darnell Mooney, wide receiver out of Chicago. And Mooney had a pretty good year last year. He had 219 fantasy points, 81 receptions for over 1,000 yards, 4 tutties. I like him a lot because, one, Justin Fields is getting better as a quarterback. We've seen his progression throughout the year that he started last year. He's looking a lot better. Mooney's also the wide receiver 1 by a mile. The number 2 is Byron Pringle there, which isn't ridiculous. But still, I mean, Byron Pringle to Darnell Mooney, and obviously you had Allen Robinson leave, so that opens up plenty of targets too. And it's just a bigger and a better chance to shine for him. Obviously, Chicago's big market. He's been there for, I think this is his third year in Chicago. I believe it's his third or second year. And he's a fantastic player. He's a very nifty receiver. He's got great hands. And when he's on, he's very much on. He can be a game changer. You can get Mooney between the third and fifth round, probably the lower of the third, upper of the fifth. So that's definitely a player to target. Someone who is a definite wide receiver one on his team. That's why I really like him as well. So we got Mooney there. So those are our players for the two sleeper picks. We're going to head over now into our I remember last year we called Baker Mayfield the Bum of the League Award. This is going to be like the Bum of the Draft Award. One player that you certainly do not want to draft. Now, we're saying this in the sense that maybe it doesn't matter if you take him between the 10th and the 15th, but definitely not someone who you want to be relying on.
We're talking about players who are overvalued on the draft board compared to what they're actually going to give you output wise.
Absolutely. I can give you mine first here, and this is an interesting player, and it pains me to say it, Lachlan. It pains me to say it as, Chargers fan, former Charger. It's Hunter Henry, tight end for New England. Last year, he had 50 receptions for 603 yards and 9 touchdowns. 9 touchdowns being the highlight of that. I mean, that's not bad at all. However, he only had 5 games last year above 13 fantasy points. New England just has a bad scheme for tight ends in fantasy football because why is that? Who's there? Jonnu Smith's right there with him from Tennessee. They like that 2 tight end system, so it's not really a reliable player. He's unreliable and inconsistent. Not to say that he's a bad football player, just for fantasy. And Lachlan, we talked about this a little bit before the show. It's different being like some Bill Belichick doesn't give a damn about your fantasy team. I mean, let's be honest. He doesn't care who's going to get.
No, Bill Belichick does not care about your fantasy team. That's why he went out and got 2 tight ends, like 2 good tight ends.
2 good ass tight ends that could fill in that role. That's why Hunter Henry had 9 touchdowns. He just doesn't get a whole lot of yards. Typically, he's targeted more toward the red zone, but he doesn't get many touches down the stretch or targets down the stretch from Mac Jones. Who knows, that might change this year, but the point is he's unreliable. It's the same as a 2 running back system. That's why people don't love drafting Melvin Gordon, because he's with Javonte Williams. And that's why 2 running backs in fantasy football. Sorry, go ahead.
I said I wouldn't love drafting Melvin Gordon either. I completely agree.
Yeah, so that's why it's tough having a 2 running back system, 2 tight end system, and Hunter Henry is anything but reliable this year, in my opinion. So I'm going to go with, unfortunately, pains me to say it, Hunter Henry.
Yeah, I'm going to go, again, this also kind of pains me to say a little bit too, but I have 2 here. I'll explain both of them quickly. My first one is Russell Gage. Because I feel like Russell Gage would have done so with Atlanta in their scheme, but the Bucs went out, they got him. He's a good receiver. The only problem, who's ahead of him on the depth chart? Oh yeah, that's Chris Godwin and Mike Evans.
Yep.
So, and even drafting Chris Godwin as your like marquee wide receiver is a pretty iffy pick.
Absolutely.
With the way Mike Evans has been performing the last couple seasons with Tom Brady.
You can even throw in Julio Jones there too. They got Julio Jones.
Yeah, I mean, God.
Oh, another Falcon. There you
Yeah, exactly. Just twist the knife.
Absolutely. It could be one of those years where that's so true. Each one of the receivers on any given day could have 25 fantasy points and the other will have 3.
Yeah, it's just not a very, like, depth chart wise, coaching wise, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
To have those 3 options downfield, brilliant.
But
fantasy wise, it's just not great.
Once again, Bruce Arians doesn't give a damn about your fantasy team. He really doesn't.
Oh my God, no. Not when you're winning Super Bowls. Yeah. Not when you're winning Super Bowls. Like,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things, like Russell Gage was so good with Atlanta, and then signs in a system with a lot of players at his position, and he's just not gonna be the same, and it's sad, but you should avoid him because I think he's going to be very overvalued on the draft board too.
Yeah. Not terrible later round, like we said. However, not reliable is the point.
No.
And Loch, you had
And
another
yeah.
one. Who's your other one?
Yeah, my other one quickly is just it's Brandon Cooks.
Mm.
And I know Brandon Cooks is a wide receiver 1 on the Texans, but he's really their only aerial target
You could repeat that. He's the wide receiver 1 on the Texans.
on the Texans. He's the only player that the secondary has to look after at any point. It's just not great. And one thing I noticed with our draft too is Brandon Cooks slipped so far from where he was from where he was projected to go. He slipped so far. No one wanted to take him for that exact reason, because you're going to see Brandon Cooks pop up on your screen in like the second, third round. And you're like, whoa, what's he doing there? Why is he valued so high? He shouldn't be valued that high. He's only valued that high because he's the only notable aerial target.
For sure. And he used to be good. Like we're not saying he's not good. Once again,
no, that's not at all.
Not fantasy reliable.
Yeah,
of course. He's still a good receiver, not on the right system. But yeah, those are 3 players to avoid in fantasy drafts. Now we're gonna give just quick 30 seconds here. Are players who we think, and this is important, that are not marquee players in the first couple rounds. However, they're players that you should very much be happy to be drafting and would want on your team.
Because theoretically, like if we just said one player you should definitely draft in fantasy, okay, Jonathan Taylor. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Keenan Allen, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, like
this isn't
Cooper
the
Kupp.
obvious fantasy show.
We're not
trying to give you takes here.
Yeah, so we're what do they say about like people? Oh no, it's people who are A-list celebrities and the B-list celebrities.
Yeah.
Actually, I wouldn't call these players B-list NFL players by any means.
Well, technically, they're not. No, that's actually not a bad anagram for it, because they are technically B-list compared to the McCaffreys and the Jonathan Taylors.
Yeah, like they're not the faces of the league.
However, they are must drafts, and they could be future A-listers.
Yes, I agree.
Why don't you give us your first A-lister? Sorry, B-lister. B-lister.
One player that's not marquee who you should definitely walk away with from the draft with is DeAndre Swift, in my humble opinion. I've loved DeAndre Swift since he's come into the league. I think he's done great things with the Lions, and I think him being a multi-dimensional back only helps that system with Jared Goff, who, by the way, is a pretty good quarterback because, he did go number 1 overall at one point in his career. And I mean, I would say you do that by accident, but it's just, there's been some number 1 overall busts, but that's besides the point. And I think DeAndre Swift is in a great situation. I think the more him and Dan Campbell kind of mesh together in the system, I think will only do wonders for both of them.
Yeah.
And offensively, it's not like he's the guy, right? Like Amon-Ra St. Brown is also there.
Yeah.
TJ Hodgkinson is also there. You could arguably say that TJ Hodgkinson is the marquee player in that offense, who's not Jared Goff, obviously.
For sure. Probably a standout name, yeah.
Yeah. So DeAndre Swift is very valuable. I wasn't able to get him in the draft, unfortunately, which was sad. But I really, really wished and really wanted to get him.
I was 1 pick away, but our good friend Robbie was not there and was auto drafting. And I guarantee you he would not have picked DeAndre. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't pick Swift, but he was auto drafting, so he had to. I wanted him. He was right there. I had him on my team last year. And obviously, PPR weapon Lock. This guy's a pass-catching back. It was too bad he had an injury last year because that affected my fantasy team and millions of other people's. But and the great O-line too, or sorry, maybe not great, but they have some great players. Penei Sewell, Frank Ragnow, as we mentioned before. So they got some dogs out there. And that's a fantastic pick. Definitely want to be taking Swift if you have the opportunity. Don't feel bad about it. Feel happy about it. Next player, someone last year, I was looking through Instagram Reels. We literally had a clip saying, we love this man at the Fantasy Cast. And it's so true. Michael Pittman, we loved him from last year, and we were right. We were damn right. We're gonna take onus of what we get right this year. Don't worry. We're gonna be doing starts and sits for next year. We're gonna be keeping track about that every week again when we get back in the swing of things. That's probably the most favorite part of our show. But Michael Pittman was on that list quite a bit. Now, why do you want to take him? Well, because last year he got upwards of 90 targets, upwards of 90 receptions, I believe, as well as he had over 1,000 receiving yards. Guy's a beast. The Colts are getting a lot better this year. They should be a good team, should win that AFC South. And he actually has a great quarterback. I don't care what people say. Matt Ryan, borderline Hall of Fame talent. Matt Ryan is a great player for him to throw in the ball to. So there we go. Those are our picks. And we're getting towards the end of our episode here, Loch. What do we have?
With the fantasy question of the week here.
Love it.
And we're getting pretty general right now.
Yeah.
A little bit more on the general side. The season hasn't started. Who will be in the top 10 of PPR players this year? And these are some of our predictions.
Yes.
We'll alternate here. First of all, I want to say something that's a little bit more of a hot take. Because before we get into this list, yes, this list is filled with quarterbacks. You're wondering why? Well, it's quarterbacks generally finish within the top 10 of PPR every single year, whether you like it or not.
Go check the stats last year. Go check them.
Yep. And I'm going to say something here. It might be a little controversial, whatever. I would not be surprised if Tua cracks this top 10 by the end of the season. I would not be surprised because Tua has the world at his fingertips right now. The world at his fingertips right now with that offense and the potential for yards in the air. I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if he cracks that list and has a really good, strong season.
That is not a horrible take, whatever. You have Tyreek Hill and one of the best rookie receivers last year in Jalen Waddle, and a few pass catching backs. So that can hurt you. That's fantastic. So do you want to? We'll go a bit more in depth in the top 5 briefly, but let's just switch back and forth for the top 10. Number 10, Big Matty Stafford, Super Bowl winner, Los Angeles Rams.
Number 9, we got Patrick Mahomes. Lost Tyreek Hill, but I still think with Andy Reid in that offense, it's not too much of a concern to leave him outside the top 10 with his abilities.
Not at all. Juju Smith-Schuster, rookie wide receiver, Sky Moore. I mean, they're set. Number 8, this is a bit of a bold prediction, but a lot of people like this. Jalen Hurts actually finished within the top 20, I think top 15. Last year, improved team a lot. Obviously, you have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. You have pass catching backs. And you can run the damn ball and score touchdowns on the ground.
And honorable and good stat pointed out by you when we were talking before the show. Jalen Hurts finished ahead of Kyler Murray last year in PPR,
which a lot of people don't know.
Surprising because Jalen Hurts took a lot of heat during the entirety of last season for the Eagles.
He did.
Move 7, CMC, Christian McCaffrey, obviously. Every football fan would love to see him play a full season. Fingers crossed. Let's make it happen. And if so, he's gonna be locked in that top 10 easily.
Yeah, if healthy. These are all if healthies, of course.
Oh, of course, yeah.
The last one before we get in the top 5, number 6, Cooper Kupp, who finished, I think it was first last year. Actually, Cooper Kupp finished. Cooper Kupp was a Triple Crown winner. So that makes sense why he finished first. But obviously a beast. The only reason we have him a bit lower, we believe it's hard to have that good of a season 2 years in a row, and take the fact that you also have Allen Robinson on your team as well. You have a lot of studs on the Rams. So Cooper
coaches make adjustments at some point or another.
Sure. That's so true. So and teams are going to be planning around him. That being said, he's still going to have a great year. Maybe not number 1 though.
Yep. All right. Number 5 here. We got yours truly, Ty. Austin Eckler, running back on the Chargers. I think the Chargers are going to be a wagon this year. They're destined for a breakout year. In a very tough division nonetheless. But I think the Chargers are looking good. And I just expect more of the Eckler, another multi-dimensional back that fits beautifully within that Chargers offense.
I appreciate that. Of course, and he's here because PPR. He actually had the most total touchdowns of any player in the NFL last year. He had 20, both in the air and on the ground. Number 4, Jay Jettas, wide receiver of Minnesota. Justin Jefferson. This guy's an absolute horse. There is a chance that people have been saying that he could have 2,000 receiving yards this year in an 18-game season. Kirk Cousins is, despite what people give him crap for, he's been a stud for the last 5 years doing his job. Leave the man alone. He's fine. There's a reason that Jay Jettas and Adam Thielen have had great seasons for the last, Thielen for the last 3 years. And Justin Jefferson is starting to have those consistent seasons. Absolute beast. He's 100% on this list, 100% in the top 5 if he stays healthy. Justin Jefferson.
Number 3, again, another one of yours truly, Ty. Quarterback for the LA Chargers, Justin Herbert, another Justin on this list. This guy is going to be airing the ball out like no tomorrow. His arm is unbelievable, and his downfield targets are pretty good as well. Obviously, you got good buddy Keenan Allen in there.
Sure.
Eckler is a big pass catcher. You got Mike Williams with the length. Jalen Guyton. I mean, this guy's going to have a great season. It's going to be a phenomenal season for Herbert, and I'm love watching.
Gotta knock on wood sometimes. Just give thanks to the Lord above. I mean, like, I hope so if everything goes well and he's healthy. Like last year, he finished within the top 10. Great running backs, good coach, second year scheme. This is his first time not changing like offensive coordinator between college and the NFL in 3 years. So hopefully he can capitalize on that. And last year he finished within the top 10 too. Number 2, we're both a big fan of this guy. I think it's pretty safe to say Josh Allen, quarterback Buffalo. The reason we have him above Herbert is because although him and Herbert can both move their legs, Josh Allen has worked into the schemes a lot more running the football. You love to see Sean McDermott let that man run and get touchdowns on the ground. Amazing receiving core, obviously. Gabe Davis should have another big year. Someone actually we were going to talk about more this year in the fantasy cast. Obviously, Stephon Diggs. You got Dawson Knox. You got some dogs out there. And Allen is ranked by ESPN actually right now as the number 1 quarterback in the whole NFL and the only person who is a tier 1 quarterback. Not even Mahomes is a tier 1 quarterback according to ESPN. So Josh Allen, big year hopefully from him. Potentially a Super Bowl run. We'd love to see it, but definitely one of the fantasy champions of so many people.
Yeah, and number 1, the man we haven't mentioned yet, Mr. Jonathan Taylor.
Oh.
He is by far the most reliable player in fantasy football at this moment in time right now, without a question. The volume, the scheme is there, the talent's there. It's all there. Like he's probably gonna be the number 1 overall pick in 95% of fantasy drafts. He should be. He deserves that. He's worked his way up to that honor, and no surprise that we're picking him at number 1 here on our list to round out that top 10. And again, we're going to check up on this later in the year, see how we did. We're going to see if Tua sneaks his way into the top 10. I don't know if that's going to happen.
That could be the best thing you said all year, and it happened in episode 1, Loch. We don't know. It could. And that's our first fantasy question of the week completed. Lochman, that's our first episode completed of season 2. Once again, well, I know I speak on behalf of both of us. It's just so good to be back. The NFL season starts a week today, because by the time you're seeing it, it's Thursday, September 1st. Starts a week today, ladies and gentlemen. Thursday Night Football, Bills and Rams. So hype. Make sure, because we won't be seeing you until then, set those Thursday lineups. We talked about this last year all the time. You remember that?
Set those lineups.
Coming
Thursday morning.
It's fleece season as well. Fantasy Cast is back. I'm so happy. This has been a great first episode.
Yeah, I think when the episode releases this time tomorrow, I'll actually be at the ASU football preseason game between ASU and Northern Arizona.
Woo!
It's a game day tomorrow, baby.
Let's do it, baby. Fantasy Cast season 2 is back. Thank you for watching episode 1. You can check us out YouTube, Spotify. Follow us on Instagram and our TikTok. All the best, ladies and gentlemen. From now, I'm Ty. He's Lachlan, and we'll see you next week.